The Three Musketeers. In the year 1625, a poor but proud young man named D'Artagnan left his family's crumbling chateau in Gascony. His father gave him 2 gifts, 15 crowns and a clumsy mustard-yellow horse with a comical gait. His goal was Paris, and his dream was to become one of the King's Musketeers, the elite soldiers of France. In his pocket was a letter of introduction to their captain, Monsieur de Tréville. At an inn, his Gascon pride was wounded by an older nobleman with a cruel smile and a scar on his face, who mocked his strange horse. D'Artagnan challenged the man, but was quickly knocked out by the nobleman's companions. When he awoke, bruised and dizzy, his precious letter was gone. D'Artagnan arrived in Paris, a whirlwind of noise and people, and went straight to the Musketeer headquarters. While waiting to see the captain, he spotted the man with the scar and rushed after him, desperate to reclaim his letter. In his haste, he first collided with a noble, wounded musketeer named Athos, making him cry out in pain. Then he became tangled in the grand, gold-embroidered shoulder belt of a large, boastful musketeer named Porthos. Finally, he accidentally insulted a quiet, studious musketeer named Aramis by revealing he was speaking with a lady in secret. In less than an hour, he had scheduled 3 separate duels with 3 of the most feared swordsmen in Paris. At the appointed dueling spot, a quiet monastery courtyard, D'Artagnan found the 3 musketeers waiting for him. But before the first sword could be drawn, they were interrupted by a patrol of guards who served the powerful Cardinal Richelieu, the king's chief minister, and a bitter rival of the musketeers. "Dueling is against the king's law," their leader announced with a sneer. "It is 5 of you against the 3 of us," Athos noted calmly, calculating the odds. D'Artagnan, seeing a chance to prove his worth, stepped forward, drawing his sword. "You are mistaken," he said. "It is 5 against 4. The clash of steel echoed in the square. D'Artagnan fought with a wild, desperate courage, a natural talent honed by years of practice. Athos was a picture of cool precision, Porthos a whirlwind of brute force, and Aramis a dancer of deadly grace. Together, they easily defeated the cardinal's men. From that moment, a bond was forged between them, sealed by their shared victory. The 4 men, Athos, Porthos, Aramis, and D'Artagnan, were now inseparable, bound by a single motto: all for one, and one for all. D'Artagnan found lodging with a timid man named Monsieur Bonacieux, and quickly fell for his landlord's young wife, the beautiful and loyal Constance. Constance was more than just a landlord's wife. She was the personal linen maid and trusted confidant to Anne, the Queen of France. One evening, D'Artagnan heard a commotion and discovered that Constance was being kidnapped from her own home. Her cowardly husband begged D'Artagnan to save her, and the young Gascon, already smitten, swore that he would risk his life to bring her back safely. After a daring rescue, a grateful Constance revealed a dangerous state secret to D'Artagnan. The Queen was being blackmailed. Cardinal Richelieu, who knew the Queen secretly loved the English Duke of Buckingham, had persuaded the king to host a grand ball. He insisted the Queen wear a set of 12 diamond studs the king had given her. But the Queen, in a moment of passion, had given those very diamonds to the Duke of Buckingham as a secret gift. If she could not wear them, she would be disgraced, accused of treason, and the fragile peace with England would be shattered. Constance pleaded with D'Artagnan to undertake a desperate mission, travel to London and retrieve the diamonds from the Duke. D'Artagnan and his 3 friends accepted without hesitation, and set out immediately. But the cardinal's spies were everywhere. The roads were filled with ambushes and traps. One by one, Porthos, Aramis, and Athos were forced to stay behind to fight off attackers in duels, brawls, and chases, each shouting for D'Artagnan to ride on without them, for the honor of the Queen depended on him alone. D'Artagnan alone reached England, and, after proving his identity, delivered the Queen's message to the Duke of Buckingham. The Duke, devoted to the Queen, rushed to get the diamonds, but returned with a look of horror. 2 of the 12 studs were missing. They had been expertly cut from their setting by the Cardinal's deadliest spy, a beautiful and wicked woman known as Milady de Winter, who had seduced the Duke to get close to the jewels. The Duke ordered his personal jeweler to work through the night to create 2 perfect replacements, sparing no expense. With the complete set of diamonds, D'Artagnan raced back to France, escaping assassins sent by Milady at every turn. He arrived at the palace just minutes before the ball began and gave the jewels to Constance, who rushed them to the Queen. The Queen appeared, radiant and beautiful, with all 12 diamonds sparkling on her gown. The Cardinal, who was expecting her ruin, approached her and pointedly asked her to count them. When she did, he was left stunned and furious. He now knew he had a new and dangerous enemy, the young Gascon, D'Artagnan. The Cardinal's fury was now focused on his agent, Milady de Winter. While on a mission in England to ensure the Duke of Buckingham did not send aid to French rebels, Milady was captured by her brother-in-law, Lord de Winter, who knew of her evil past. He imprisoned her in a coastal castle, assigning a strict, deeply religious soldier named John Felton to guard her. But Milady was a master of deception, and she saw the pious Felton not as a guard, but as a righteous weapon to be aimed and fired. Day after day, Milady wove a brilliant web of lies. She pretended to be a fellow Puritan, telling Felton she was being persecuted for her faith by the wicked Duke of Buckingham, who she claimed had kidnapped and branded her. Her performance was flawless. Felton, blinded by his fanaticism and his growing devotion to the beautiful, suffering prisoner, came to believe her completely. He swore he would not only help her escape, but that he would assassinate the Duke for her, an act he saw as the will of God. True to his poisoned word, John Felton stabbed and killed the Duke of Buckingham. In the ensuing chaos, Milady de Winter escaped and sailed back to France. The shocking news of the assassination reached the 4 friends, who were now serving in the king's army at the siege of the rebel city of La Rochelle. They did not need to be told who was behind it. They knew it was the work of Milady, and that her evil was escalating to a level that threatened not just them, but the entire kingdom. One night, hiding in a desolate inn, the Musketeers overheard a secret meeting between the Cardinal and Milady. They heard Milady demand her payment for the Duke's death, a warrant for the death of D'Artagnan and Constance. The Cardinal, needing her skills for future plots, handed her a piece of paper. "It is by my order and for the good of the state," it read, "that the bearer of this has done what has been done." It was a royal pardon, a blank check for any crime she chose to commit. After the Cardinal left, Athos, his face pale as a ghost, entered Milady's room. He revealed his darkest secret. Milady was his wife, a woman he had married years ago, only to discover she was a branded criminal, marked with the fleur-de-lis for theft. Believing he had hanged her himself on his own estate, he had been haunted by the memory ever since. He snatched the Cardinal's pardon from her hand and warned her that if she harmed D'Artagnan, he would find her and kill her, this time for good. The friends knew that Milady, now cornered and exposed, would seek revenge on the person D'Artagnan loved most, Constance Bonacieux. They realized with dawning horror that Constance was in terrible, immediate danger. They sent an urgent message to the Queen, who had hidden Constance in a convent for her safety. They begged for Constance to be moved immediately, to be guarded day and night, knowing that Milady, armed with the Cardinal's pardon, would stop at nothing to find her. Their warning came too late. Milady used the Cardinal's power to find the convent. She arrived pretending to be a friend, a messenger from D'Artagnan, sent to rescue Constance from the Cardinal's evil schemes. The kind and trusting Constance, who lived in constant fear for her life and for D'Artagnan's, believed she had found a savior. She welcomed Milady into her confidence and told her all her secrets, sealing her own fate. Just as D'Artagnan and the Musketeers galloped into the convent courtyard, Milady heard their horses. Realizing she could not escape with Constance, she offered her a glass of wine to strengthen her for the journey. The wine was poisoned. D'Artagnan burst into the room just in time to see Constance collapse. He held her in his arms as her life slipped away, her last breath a whisper of his name. Milady had vanished out a back door. D'Artagnan's sorrow hardened into a cold, unbreakable desire for justice. He, his friends, Lord de Winter, and a silent, hooded man known as the Executioner of Lille, hunted Milady across France. They were no longer soldiers, but judges and executioners. They finally cornered her in an isolated house by a river, a place from which there was no escape. The hunt was over, and the time for judgment had come. Inside the house, they held a grim trial. One by one, they accused her of her many crimes. Lord de Winter accused her of murdering his brother. D'Artagnan accused her of poisoning Constance Bonacieux. Athos accused her of bringing shame and ruin to his family. Finally, the hooded executioner accused her of corrupting his brother, a priest whom she drove to suicide. She was found guilty on all counts, and her sentence was death. The executioner of Lille led Milady from the house and carried out the sentence. D'Artagnan, his heart heavy with loss but his friend avenged, returned to Paris to face the cardinal. He held out the pardon Athos had taken from Milady and told him the entire story, expecting to be sent to the Bastille prison. Instead, the cardinal, impressed by his courage and recognizing the justice of his actions, took out a blank military commission. "You have earned this," he said, signing it. "You are now a lieutenant in the King's Musketeers.